What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to Word of Mouth. My name is PJ, and today I have a different type of video for you. It's the first chance that you're going to be able to see the Word of Mouth podcast on YouTube. The podcast is just a different way, a different platform for me to reach out and let all you guys know, guys and women know about Black-owned businesses. And this episode is going to be very informative. We touch on a lot of key topics, so make sure you watch until the end. And also comment below and let me know if you like this type of video, and also if you like learning about the business. Well, I'm not going to hold y'all up too much longer. Let's just hop right into the interview.
Start with the vision, then make a killing. You gon' make you a million, they gon' make you a villain.
And then you'll have your two separate portals.
Yes. So
Okay.
The one great thing about us is once you're in the community, you're in. So investors will have access to the entrepreneur, well, some of the entrepreneur training, let me say that. And
Okay.
then entrepreneurs will also have access to the investor training, because one of the things that I personally believe is entrepreneurs should know how the investors on our platform are being trained and how they think about investing, so that when they are putting their businesses together, putting their pitches together, they're answering the questions based on what the community is looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that a lot of our counterparts, other ethnicities do. They actually go in for pitch training where they learn what those angel investors are looking for, so they're able to answer those objections before they even arise, you know? So, yes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, many of the investors will also be entrepreneurs, right?
And vice versa.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The entrepreneurs will see other pitches and say, man, I like that idea. I want to invest in that. So the community truly is that, the people coming together for the greater good, right? Helping each other, and then also helping themselves in these different areas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's perfect, and exactly what we need. I like the fact that the way that you guys have that set up, because education is really, really key to making everything move forward, especially for us. So that's definitely dope. And you touched on this a little bit, that people would need to know what to say to combat any objections or any questions that people would ask. So what would you think the top two things business owners would want to need, or would need to have when making a pitch?
Oh, we haven't gotten that question before. So I'm going to go back to my business plan writing days and tell you that one thing is the team.
Okay.
Yes. So professional investors, people think that professional investors care about the idea the most, and that's not true. They care about the team. You can have a great idea, and if people don't believe that your team can execute the idea, if everyone is a visionary and you don't have anybody that is what we call a tactician, people who can make things go, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get funding. So I would say that that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, it's going to sound a little quirky, but belief. Do I believe this entrepreneur can do what they say they can do? And yes, so those would be my two. Again, I wasn't expecting that question exactly like that. So it's interesting that you asked that, because that's an interesting question. But from my business plan writing days, those are the two.
It's a very good question. You know, I would have said the team as well. And then I would have said, know your numbers.
Okay.
Know your numbers, right? Know those financials inside and out, because that's what people want to hear about. They want to know, how is this going to make money, right?
Yeah.
Where is money being generated in this business? How is that going to be sustained, right? What's the growth model, the scalability model to it? You know, how does that cost affect the consumer if it's a business to B2C customer relationship? Or, you know, so I would want them to know those numbers, because the audience is going to ask whatever questions they want, right? It's not they're not going to be shielded, right?
Yeah.
No one's going to be there saying, oh, you can't ask that. Every question is on the table, right?
Yeah.
Because an investor should be able to ask whatever they want to determine where they're going to put their hard-earned money.
Yeah.
And so for me, it would be a deal breaker if someone didn't know those numbers.
Yeah. That makes
So
sense.
I will also say, again, as a business plan writer, sometimes it's not the numbers as much as it is the assumptions behind the numbers. So if you have not been in business a long time, just having assumptions that make sense,
Yeah.
you know, so when someone says, well, where did you get that number from? Do you have an industry report that showed that? Or do you have something else, you know, that some other company is doing? Or at least if you are conservative in those estimates, then going back to what I was saying about belief,
Yes.
do I believe you can
Right.
do what you say you can do? So I think we should do a top 3 between what Tawana said and what I said. Yeah, because the know your numbers is right, but the numbers is, do I believe that those numbers are accurate?
Yeah.
And do I believe that your team can execute on the idea? And do I believe, okay, so this is a great example. No one foresaw COVID-19 and George Floyd.
No.
No one foresaw that separately, much less together, right?
Yeah.
At the same time. Do I believe that your team is flexible enough to take advantage of, if it's an area to take advantage of those opportunities, or to be able to shift so that you can survive? Or are you going to be a deer in headlights that doesn't know what to do because something happens? Now, the great thing about our community is we're used to shifting.
We are.
Like,
We're resilient.
We'll shift.
Yes. So I'm a little less worried about that, but you will have people who will say, I wonder if this team can, shift left to right, or are they going to be a deer in headlights if something happens? Because we all know that things happen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Those are great points. So for a business owner, they would need to have a good team, to know their numbers, and to believe, or to bring belief from investors.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say would be the top things that investors would need to maybe ask to a business owner during the pitch?
I think about the team. Who's your team? And one of the best things that I could suggest to the entrepreneur is to bring their founders, with them. Everybody should be there so that the investors can feel comfortable with those individuals. They will ask about the numbers in terms of, what's your revenue model? How does this business make money?
How do I get from it? Yeah.
And how do I get my capital back? And when do I expect to get my capital back? Are going to be huge things. And what are you going to do with the money as well? So I'll tell you, true story, business plan writer days, I was on the phone with a prospect, and I always ask people, how much are you raising and what are you going to do with the money? And this gentleman said to me, I'm going to live on it while I figure out how to make this business run. And it was like $500,000 that he wanted, something like that. And I said, you are? He said, yes. And I said, well, why? And he said, I have 2 kids in private school. And he basically told me a very expensive life, even though he didn't use it in those terms.
Yeah.
And I said, no investor is going to pay for your lifestyle while you figure out how to make this business run.
Yeah.
Nobody. Nobody is going to pay for that. But I mean, I'll tell you, these are true stories, so it has to make sense. Like, what you're putting the money into has to make sense. And some investors may look at you and ask, okay, how are you going to support yourself as this business is growing as well? Do you live with family that believe in you and say, look, Philip's son, mom and dad says, okay, you can come live with us. You got a year to get this off the ground. The crowd believes in you, et cetera. Those are the types of things that help investors, at least like me and professional investors,
Yeah.
feel more comfortable. Like, okay, Philip's not going to be starving in the street, you know,
Yeah.
and he's going to be able to. Another thing that people may ask is, again, it depends on how much money you're raising and what kind of business you have, is are you doing this full-time or part-time?
Yeah.
If
That's
you're
a good
asking me
question.
for $1 million and you want to do this part-time as you keep your government job and all of that, an investor may look at that and say, I don't know, you know, is that something you could raise 35,000 for and do it part-time and then come back when you're ready to go full-time? So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Those are great questions. And then I think one of the main key points is when should I expect my capital back? Because I know a lot of people have invested in various things and they'll be disappointed when they're not receiving a return, but they didn't read when, like, how long their money needed to be held, or like when the releases were going to be released out. And I'm particularly talking about real estate investments because that's kind of what I am into. But y'all see, like, people don't really pay attention to that part. So yeah, knowing when that the money is going to be returned back to you is very important.
Yeah. And this is the long game we're playing here, right?
Yeah.
Equity crowdfunding is not a quick means to capital. It is not for the investor, right? These businesses have to grow. They have to make money. It could be 7 to 10 years if they make any money, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So this is absolutely the long game. The other thing investors need to know, not so much to ask, but to know, is they have to invest responsibly, right? Cherie said we're going to bring a business a week, right? You can't budget a business a week on the spur of the moment, right? You need to think about, okay, they're going to do a business a week. I know the minimum I can do is 100, maybe the 22 is the maximum. What's my budget for the year as it relates to this crowdfunding investment type, right? Building the portfolio through crowdfunding. And so that's part of the education, but it's also something that investors need to think about in advance. Because what happens is you see a good idea, and we hope all these ideas are going to be exciting and thrilling, and, you know, but we want people to be responsible. We don't want mortgage money. We don't want grocery money. We want disposable income that has been set aside in advance for investing, right? Because we're trying to grow wealth. We're trying to get our people out of the slump that many of us have been in. And we can't do that if we're investing irresponsibly. And so that's a key that anyone who's a member of the 10K Project needs to commit to, is being a responsible investor. And we'll do our part through the education, but then our members have to do their part as well. To, you know, the fear of missing out is a real thing.
Yeah, FOMO is real.
Yeah, it's real. And so we just don't want them to get caught up thinking they have to invest in every single deal every single week, right? Unless they can afford it, unless that was what was budgeted.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very key point, because a lot of, like you just said, fear of missing out can haunt people, and it can make people make some bad decisions. So yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad you shared that for people.
Yeah.
So
I want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to make another statement as well, and that is, if you have kids.
Start with the vision, then make a killing. You gon' make you $1 million, they gon' make you a villain.